Because when I left, it was funny because I thought Joel was making just a funny joke, but he posted on it. It's like, Jeff left, and he did the job of 3 people, so we have to have 3 people replacing him, and because Jeff had clown shoes, his shoes were so big. And I thought he was joking, but he was really right, because I would take all that stuff on myself and be like, I need this done as perfectly, basically, and the only way to make that happen is for me to do it, and you have to let that go, right? Like, I don't have to do everything anymore. And I think on Discourse, my current startup, like, there's certain things I take off, there's other things I completely say, look, you know what, I'm not even going to try to do this, I'm going to let other people do it, and that's okay.
My goal with each hire at NPM, from my co-founders and then, on to everybody, I identify a bit of a job that I'm doing. And chances are I'm not doing it great, right? Because I am wearing a bunch of hats. So if I'm doing 5 other jobs, let's identify one of those. Find somebody who's an expert at that one job who can do it better than I can, and then just give it to them 100% and be like, all right, this is your job now. You're responsible for it. Here's what here's the outcome I want to see. Go.
That's a big thing about leadership is, and it's hard if you're a really strong coder, is you say, well, I'm not in that role anymore, and now I got to give this to you. And
because other people's code looks so ugly.
Like helicopter parent them. You've got to, you own this. Yeah. The success, you're the winner. You're the hero. The failure, you're the GOAT. Now go. And you got to trust them. Mm-hmm. And if you're constantly checking up on them and giving them input and stuff, they're not going to feel that sense of ownership. That's one of the best ways to develop people. But then still, even if you're able to do that, I still have the problem of, oh, he's not doing it right, and biting my tongue and feeling the stress of that.
And it's the same thing with kids, right? Your kids are going to try to do things, they're going to fail. And one of the biggest failings you can have as a parent is try to protect your kids from ever knowing failure.
Yeah.
To make it so that they always succeed is the worst kind of parenting, right? Where basically you're doing things for them, or preventing them from falling. And giving somebody the freedom to make mistakes is the biggest freedom you can give them.
And as parents, you feel the social pressure that, oh, my kid did the thing and he fell on his face. And now you feel this pressure like, oh, I'm not a good parent because of that, because, other mom or whatever saw that.
Yeah, it's real hard.
And you got to find that fortitude within yourself to say, I don't care what they think. I don't care what they just saw. Yeah. I've got to let my kid learn.
Well, the game is played over many, many years, right? Many decades. The game is played over decades. That's the way you have to look at this.
Yeah.
And that is a healthy way to look at it. It's like when you're picking values for your company, you pick values that are still going to be good in 10, 20, 30 years, right? Not, we have to all be in crunch mode because that's what we're doing. It's like, that's not how it's going to be forever. It's just like when you have a baby. Believe me, you want to experience crunch mode? Have a baby, man.
So now
you will be in crunch mode like you have never been in before.
You won't be crying. You have a 6-year-old?
I have a 6-year-old and two 3-year-old twins.
2 3-year-old twins.
Yeah.
And you decided to go do another startup.
Well, I did change the rules. We have a philosophy that resonated with me. It was like, look, I'm going to pay people really good salaries to start. I'm not going to do this $1,000 a month thing. I did Stack Overflow. You're going to get a real salary. We're going to be like, look, we're not working on the weekends, right? That's not expected. We're not going to work late hours. That's not expected. This is going to be a saner startup because we had seed funding, and that's what I used the seed money for, was essentially to pay people really good salaries while we built up this thing.
And that does make things a lot easier.
You get what you pay for.
But you having that success that you did with StackChain under your belt, I think now makes it a lot easier to come in to a new startup. But I think it's still pretty fucking hard.
Yeah, well, it's still work. It's still, building a company is hard. If you want to go home and forget about your work, don't do a startup, man. Because I still can't really do that. I'm still thinking sort of all the time about Discourse and what I want it to be and how I want it to grow, and you just never really lets go. Now eventually, I left Stack Exchange. That's the ultimate letting go. That's like having a kid and saying, okay, you go to college, you're your own man or woman now. You have your own life. I'm still your parent, but you control your life completely. I'm not going to be there unless you want me to be there, right? You're your own person. You have your own family. And that was the ultimate statement of being able to walk away.
But, you know,
and that was incredibly hard. Like, I felt like I literally had a hole in my body from where the Stack Overflow stuff used to be.
Yeah, I felt like that so
to where I
much.
was like, who am I now? Like, I'm not.
Yes.
It was so all-consuming that I was like, I don't even know who I am anymore.
When I left Couchbase, I felt this void of me. I would go in every day to an office where everybody likes me and I'm important and I'm getting emails, I'm going to meetings, and I'm leading this thing, and it's a movement, and everybody's excited, to nothing. To sitting at home. And it was hard.
Yeah. That was a dark time for me.
Brutal.
That was a dark time for me.
I got really depressed.
Well, plus you had, like, the divorce stuff, man. You had triple whammy. That
was
a lot of stuff.
It was part of it was I had to leave because our marriage is falling apart
as a result of the startup.
I don't know if it was the result of the startup or not, but I thought
it was certainly related.
If I leave, I can leave. So let's do that and start trying to work on the marriage. But then I didn't anticipate how painful it would be to leave, And I tell you, last year, 2014, was the hardest year of my life. So I had no startup. I was divorced. My high school sweetheart was gone. I'm trying to take care of these kids. And I had to figure out who I am. Who am I now? And now I have this very clear identity of being dad. I'm dad. And it took me a while to get there, and to the point where I really like being a dad. But
I think it's good
that transition was awful.
I got to tell you, I think it was the right thing for you to leave. I think it was the right thing for me to leave because you get too invested, and the only way to de-invest is to some extent go cold turkey.
Yeah.
Because I remember talking to Joel about this, like, well, maybe I can be partially in, partially out. And I realized for me, I'm either all in or all out. There's no in between. Either I'm like there working as hard as I can to make things be awesome, or I'm just that's a different company that I don't work for anymore.
Yeah. Well, right. Then you're not yourself.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing Discourse, is because I realize when I wake up every day and I don't have like a mission from God to be on, that's a problem for me as a person. Like, I don't know who I am anymore because I don't have a mission. Like, I don't know what to do with myself. So that's one of the reasons I did Discourse, is like, I need a project. I need something to work on. But I did change the rules a little bit. I did make it more like, look, we're going to have better balance. We're going to pay everybody from the start. We're going to have funding from the start.
Well, to fill that,
it's a long-term strategy. Discourse is I originally called it a 5-year project, and then really quickly after I saw how much work it was, this is really a 10-year project. So I plan to spend the next 10 years working on Discourse.
Is this to be the PHP BB? Is that what you guys are trying to get
Well, WordPress of forums is the better way I like to say it. But like, it's a 10-year project, so it's a marathon, right? Like, I don't need to burn myself out tomorrow. This is a long-term project that I'm going to be on for a long time. And it takes the time it takes. I don't need to kill myself for 2 years to make it work, right? It's just a process. It's like building a pyramid. The way you build a pyramid is you move this block 10 feet every day. That's how you build a pyramid.
Yeah, that consistent effort over time.
That's right. Consistent effort over time.
You can't beat it. The thing that I use now to fill that part of my brain that used to code is this Buick. Fixing it.
Right.
It's constantly stuff is wrong with it, and I have to figure out the electrical, the mechanical, the carburetor, the fuel systems, the ignition.
Got to put in 50 cameras.
And I realized I was getting obsessive about it. Like, I'm up at 3 a.m. on the web looking at car forum sites trying to figure out if somebody else had this problem. I'm like, I'm doing that again. I'm getting crazy obsessive. I got to stop.
Well, I was always obsessive. I remember in college we had a mountain bike club, and we would obsess over mountain bike crap. We would go through all the catalogs, memorize everything, learn everything we could about every new model of mountain bike. Obsession is like a normal way of working for me.
Yeah, me too.
It really is. So it's a question of like managing it and making sure it's positive. And for the most part it is, but the danger is really burnout, right? Like, you get too obsessed, you can't step away, you're too close.
I've burned out a lot of times in my career, and I sort of started to recognize the signs and try to pull back. But it's like the burnout me. He's clever. He figures out a way to
because it feels
going.
good.
Yeah.
It feels good to be obsessed, man. And part of you knows, rightly, that obsession is part of what makes people successful.
Yeah.
But not too much. It can turn dark.
Well, you know what? We're almost out of fuel. So, you guys got anything else on your mind that you want to talk about?
I just want to put in a second diss for the Hacker News badass parent guy. I think that guy's full of shit.
Oh yeah,
Like, don't start a startup with a kid. I mean, if you have to, fine, but don't be like, oh yeah, it's no big deal to have a startup and a kid, particularly early stage.
I'm not familiar with this
hacker news badass.
This hacker news. Are you referring to the men's rights activism forum that's run by the venture capitalists?
They're not that bad. They're not bad, but they're kind of badasses, right? Like they're all badasses.
I'm so over the toxic masculinity of everything in tech. Like, God. It's even just like everywhere in our language, right? Like good coders are like crushing it, man. They're killing it every day, and like this is like the strongest platform. Like weightlifting is not relevant to technology. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
Well, a lot of that just comes out of insecurity.
Absolutely.
I still feel insecurity. Like I look at my career and I'm like, man, I did way more than I ever thought I would. But then I occasionally, want to brag about what I did, and like I'm still important. I was good. I'm awesome. Appreciate me. And that just comes from, it's a very natural thing. We want to be recognized. We want people to appreciate our work and our efforts.
Yeah.
And it takes a really strong person to be able to walk away from the credit, to give the credit to the others, and not care, and just be happy that the stuff is getting done.
Yep.
But I still feel that to this day. Like I want to point out that I did it. That was me. I did it.
Yeah, it's especially weird. I have kind of the opposite thing happening in a way where like, so Node is still super relevant, NPM is super relevant, and people know that I was involved with that technology, right, making that happen, and they like give me a lot of credit for this, like ask me questions about how stuff works. I'm like, I don't know. It's been that code's all been rewritten since last time I saw it. Like,
that's a big sign of success, by the way.
Yeah,
1965. One of the biggest signs of success for a software project is the number of times it's been rewritten. When your code is finally all gone, that is to me the ultimate sign of success, because somebody has cared enough to take what you've written and the functionality and the structure you've built and micro optimize it or clean it up or do whatever, because it's a living, breathing thing. Something that nobody's touched for 5 years. It ain't perfect. It ain't used. That's one way.
Next one.
And you got to be okay with that. I haven't looked in a long time, but I wrote all the initial versions of CouchDB, and it all has since been written, and to the point where people would say, I'm looking at the commits here, and your lines of code are down like single %. Like, what did you do on it exactly? I wrote it. But that's a sign of success. That's a big sign of success. And you look at maybe Microsoft Office hasn't been written from scratch, but like eBay, they have gone through several rewrites of the software, and you can still see vestiges of the old. It's got like API.dll somewhere in the URL. And that doesn't even mean anything anymore. It's just there for backwards compatibility. And they just kept rewriting it because it grew and got more popular and needed to fill new roles. And the engineers who wrote the original version said that was great code. It solved the problem that you had then. So anyway.
And I think it's an interesting dynamic of where a lot of people that are programmers, particularly from the early days, really got there because they were introverted, not really good with people. They were outcasts. They were outsiders, right? Like in my high school, I didn't go to prom. Like I had I've always felt like an outsider. And but it's weird because now you're part of the power structure because look at Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, he's kind of an introverted geek and he runs one of the biggest companies in the world, right? And now I'm basically a rich white guy, right? But I still have this mentality of I'm afraid of people. I'm an outsider. I don't have any power, right? So that's the trick. I think that's the real difficulty of navigating these waters. The tech became so powerful, right? The geeks basically conquered the world. And when you conquer the world, you become part of the power structure, like it or not. And you need to do better at sharing that power, right? And not being aggressive, right?
Screw that. That's my power. I'm hogging it.
It is weird. You wake up one day and you realize you're not really an outcast. You're part of the 1%. You're part of the problem.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
But it doesn't feel. I don't feel that way.
Right.
You are. If you look at the numbers,
one thing is that
if you look what actually happened, you're part of the problem now. You have a bigger responsibility to the rest of the world.
Yes.
You can't just go hide in your man cave and program all day long. You're supposed to be helping other people. The people in roles of power, their role is to share that power and help people, right? Not just hoard it to themselves and go in a man cave all day.
That's fun.
Yeah, well, that's the way we used to work, right? We felt like outcasts.
So how much coding do you do nowadays? Me? Isaac, yes.
Quite a bit, but not at work.
You know, that's probably good.
Yeah, no, I don't code on anything that's relevant to NPM.
You know, one thing I never had outside projects.
Yeah.
So I was always, my work was the only thing. But you say that you've got a lot of stuff outside that you're coding on, keeping it relevant.
Yep. Some of those outside projects are still pretty popular, but they're just, they're just sort of love projects. They're not.
How about you, Jeff?
NPM.
I don't really code much anymore. I mean, I do a lot of writing. I do some minor CSS. I do a lot of copywriting, to be honest with you. I basically, it's kind of like the same realization I had on my blog. You know, I can reach N million people with words.
Yep.
And there's only so many people you can reach with code.
Yeah.
Words are a lot more powerful than code at some level.
It's similar to that, actually. The scale thing. Like, if I can like come up with a product idea and parcel it out into like 10 components and give those to 10 people, I can get 10 times as much code written.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's so much more, such a more effective use of my time.
Coding is not a great way for me to spend my time. Plus, I would have to be learning Ruby, and like, I just feel like I would be a drain on my team, like asking them dumb questions about Ruby. Like, what about this? And they could be actually, working.
How do you feel about the choice for Ruby? Is it something? Is it working out for you?
It's been reliable for us. Like, we haven't had any Ruby-related problems. We actually, ironically, probably had slightly more problems with .NET in terms of we'd run into edge cases in the framework. Microsoft would eventually fix them. They were very responsive. But we haven't had endemic Ruby problems. Because one thing that's great about open source is when there's endemic Ruby problems, eventually we get them fixed, we push stuff upstream, or we negotiate with other people to get it fixed. Like, Ruby has gotten a lot better. Even, like, the garbage collection story was stupid for, basically until a couple of years ago, the garbage collection was, like, pants on head stupid. It was, like, stop the world garbage collection.
And you guys
target
at
random
Ruby?
times for, like, a long time.
Well, that happens almost everything.
No, but if you look at Java has vastly more sophisticated garbage collection than what's in Ruby. It's like several orders of magnitude more sophisticated.
You guys target the MRI?
What's that?
The Ruby,
Matt's
Ruby engine.
Yeah. Well, we're just following Ruby mainline, right? We're on 2.0 now, and they're up to 2.2.
I know there's like a whole bunch of ports. Java,
one reason I liked Ruby was I felt like there was a lot of room for it to what I call low-hanging fruit. I mean that in a nice way, of like things that they can obviously improve to make it a better, more faster programming environment. But the Ruby community has been weird about this because they're always like, oh, performance doesn't matter. And they take that so to heart that they just give up. And you're like, why are you giving up? Like, you can have performance, you can have your cake and eat it too, right?
Well, anyway, guys, we got to go. All
right,
let me pull up here because I think people.
Yeah, you can just drop me off at park. I'll turn this off.
Should we turn off there? Well, anyway, wait before we do. Thank you guys. This was really great. I wasn't really sure how this would go. This is my first actual filming of this. What do you guys think?
I liked it. I like driving around in your car.
I think to get out of a boring corporate environment or a conference kind of situation where you're just sitting around.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I didn't anticipate in this car. Is all the people yelling at the thing. Hey!
Cars have power, man. That's what you've learned.
Watch out!
Bicycle. Oh, sorry.
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 I think I didn't go. I didn't want to go.
That's all right.
Oh. Oh well. I'm surprised it didn't almost kill us more often.
Yeah, it's gotta be hard to talk and focus and drive.
It actually kind of relaxes me a little bit. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
That's the point, is to get us out of the corporate environment and somewhere out here, and things just flow a little better when you're in a more relaxed environment.
Yeah. So you can just drop me near Bart.
Yep. Okay. Microphones off and.
Yep.
All right, so this is recorded for 1 hour 27 minutes.
Whoa, we talked that long? Holy shite! I had no idea. I was targeting half an hour, but I don't know. Things like it seemed like it was just flowing. So
yeah.
All right.
Well, you'll be editing it a little bit, right?
Yes, definitely. Probably at least 2-part episode. I can get ahead of the buses onto the.
Yeah, go up to the non-red curve. They were pretty bitter about that. Maybe crowded.
I'll do it. You guys can just get out.
Hey, go to the step line. We'll hop
Okay. Yeah.
Let's hop over there.
as long as we can get out fast.
All right. Thank you guys very much. Careful with that door. It opens wide.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, sir. It's fun.
All right. Thanks a lot. See you, Isaac. Bye, guys.
Take care.